So obviously having that experience additional to the one in Vietnam had some severe personality changes for him.
Absolutely. He would have flashbacks. Our brother was a hunter, and, well, first of all, he couldn't live in the city anymore. He couldn't take people around him anymore. So he moved to Pearl River, which is, at the time, it was sort of a rural area on the North Shore. But he was always a hunter, and he liked to hunt. But there were times when he would be in the woods, and he would start having flashbacks. You know, he would imagine seeing Viet Cong running through running and hiding in the trees. He was hospitalized several times. You see, I think personally, when we have our young men go off to wars, such as Vietnam, they don't realize what they're signing up for. You know, I'm sure my brother signed up because he didn't have a lot of opportunity. He didn't have a high level of education. And the whole propaganda of, let's fight for our freedom, I don't believe that was the case in Vietnam. And I think it destroyed a lot of lives, unnecessarily. And at the end, we just sort of hightailed out of it, and nobody won. But a lot of lives were destroyed, and the people around these young men that came back from Vietnam.
Do you know if your brother was ever suicidal at a point?
Absolutely, he was suicidal. He was homicidal. In other words, I don't mean he was ready to kill people, but the point is that he had no control over his emotions. Like, most of the time, he just wanted someone to kill him to be out of his agony. It was a very hard road.
How do you think he was able to get through it for so long?
My entire childhood was worrying about him. He was constantly in trouble, constantly fighting, getting into fights. He is what they call a free bleeder, which means the blood in his body doesn't, what is the
Clot?
Clot. Like,
Is anemic?
No, he's not anemic.
Yeah.
But it means if you get cut, you bleed profusely. And he would get into fights, and he would get drunk. He'd go out and looking for some relief, and he would go out and get drunk and show up at our house covered with blood because he got into fights. It was pretty traumatic. You know, it was very, very traumatic. I didn't really understand what he was going through until I was much, much older. I'm trying to think. It was probably in the mid-'80s, I want to say, where it really got bad. And he was hospitalized in a mental institution several times. I think there's a facility in Florida somewhere that he went to a couple of times. And he finally started getting some help. And was able to pretty much not necessarily change the pain, but control it. You know, so it didn't eat him up alive. But it was a hard road.
Do you have any idea, did your mom know about him enlisting and his condition afterward?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Did
she understand about post-traumatic stress disorder?
Well, no. Well, that's part of the question. But did your mother know that he was signing up for the Army?
I don't think she did. I think she found out afterwards. But what you need to remember about this time period is that people were urging our young men to go to this Vietnam War, a war that wasn't ours, a war that most of these guys didn't even know where Vietnam was, couldn't pick it out on a map, and didn't even know where they were going. But it was sort of an honor to do this, you know.
Did he know about his condition after he came back?
Did he know it?
Did she?
Did she? No, she didn't. Most people at that time did not understand post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, it wasn't a term that people understood, or a syndrome that people understood till much, much later.